everyone, welcome back to Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Kennedy and Ellen. Hi. And today we have a guest. I'll let her introduce herself, tell us where she's from and what she does regarding surrogacy.
Awesome. Well, first and foremost, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Sarah Paige, and I am the COO of Art Risk Financial and Insurance Solutions. And so we work with insurance for surrogates and donors and intended parents, kind of from the start of the journey through the end of the journey, and try to make it as smooth as possible and as least risk as possible.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Okay, I already have a question. So when you say that you work with insurance, is Art Risk, because I think people kind of get confused, is Art Risk the insurance, or is that like the umbrella for insurance?
Yeah, no, I love this question because it's so true. We get like clumped in with everything. We're a brokerage, so we basically will have a bunch of different insurance companies that we represent, and then we also represent the client, and we try and find the best matches between the insurance company and what they offer, and then what our clients' needs are. So we are kind of a middleman in the process.
Okay.
And is this, I need to ask, is this health insurance for the surrogate?
So it is health insurance, life insurance, disability insurance. So it definitely all on that kind of health and life line of insurance. Yes.
Okay. Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
How did Art come to be?
Yeah.
I love this story. Okay. So it's one of my favorite stories. So Virginia Hart, who's the owner of the company, she was an insurance agent and was doing small group and large group clients. And one of her clients was a surrogacy agency. And they actually called her one day and said, hey, we're having a really hard time finding insurance. There's only these really expensive Lloyd's of London plans. And can you help us find something different? And she said, this is an awesome question. And let me see what we can do. And at the time, this was pre-ACA. So this was like over 20 years ago. At the time, it was very hard to find maternity insurance because it wasn't mandated and very few states offered it. There were actually only 11 states across the whole US that offered maternity insurance that you could purchase prior to any pre-existing condition or anything of that nature. It was actually very limited on coverage. So that's how she did it. She just looked at that and looked at the evidence of coverages, which is the full booklet that says, hey, this is what we're going to cover, this is what we're not, and found policies that did. And that's really how the business started and was a little bit of a game changer. Because again, before that, it was just these hefty Lloyd's of London plans that were available.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So, and I think because I was reading it as well, and you guys also do like help with like IVF parts, not even just for gestational like carriers, right?
Right. So we do a couple different things. Number one, we do where we actually vet the policy that may be wanting to be used for IVF to see what kind of coverage the parents will have. And that's outside of surrogacy. So we can do that across the board for any IVF patient. And then also we have donor and recipient insurance, and the recipient insurance can actually be used for an IVF patient who is maybe retrieving their own eggs and implanting them back into themselves. So we can do it for that. Definitely most of our stuff is geared towards surrogacy for sure. But we do have like these little niches where we can provide some either a service for it or a little bit of coverage to help with the risk.
Okay, that's amazing though. So when it comes time then for like a gestational carrier to say her insurance doesn't cover, hold on, we're going to get to this. So say her insurance doesn't cover surrogacy, right? More time, I'm very new to this understanding, but it's my understanding that then they can't really use their own insurance during surrogacy. Like they would need to purchase an additional policy, and that is what you guys provide.
Right.
Yeah. So when we help vet the policy, let's see if it does or doesn't. And then if it doesn't, then that's what we do is we look out onto the open market. We like to go open market more than often than not. Again, we still have the Lloyd's policies. They're still around.
Yeah.
They're still expensive, but we really
Yeah.
try and stay away from them. And yes, we look at other policies. Where are they living? What do they currently have? Sometimes policies don't work well with one another. So you have to make sure that when you're choosing a policy, you still have to look at the underlying carrier that they have no matter what, to make sure that the two policies will work well together. So we will take care of that for any gestational carrier.
And
I have two little questions in that. Can I just ask them really quick? Okay, number one, do you do all states?
We do.
States? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
And then the other one was, I hear a lot about, I did this a long time ago, so I know how it was done for me, but I hear all these girls now talking. I'm like, ooh, this is crazy. Are you limited because of open enrollment periods? Oh, I'm stuck, aren't I? There I go.
Good, you're back.
I'm back. Hello. Are you limited because of open enrollment periods? Like,
yeah, so yes.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, that is the short answer of it is yes, you're limited.
Okay.
It's that blessing and a curse, right? We had ACA come into play in 2013, where 2014 was like the first year that we could get it. And their goal always was to actually run it concurrently with Medicare. It's not, they never actually did that, but it was going to be earlier where it was done by December 7th. Then they said, nope, let's go ahead and keep it through the 15th. But it's November 1st through December 15th. Recently, President Biden has extended it to being January 15th, which has helped because that's given a little extra time for people to get it. But yeah, it's this weird thing because it actually shifted the entire way that the surrogacy community matched, because they had to get the matches in a very short period of time to get the insurance, to have the journeys ready. You didn't have this open-ended, we can go anytime. So now there's there's this pressure that gets on for this period of 3 months to get people matched and screened and through insurance. And then hopefully, those all last and they're good and the journeys continue throughout the rest of the time. So it shifted. I mean, it was interesting. It was again, 2013, and then the huge shift happened, and it's normal now. It's a weird thing. We all know that it exists for the most part. But it's a little, I don't like it. I would like it to be all year round. I know that my entire team would love it to be all year round.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But it is there.
Interesting. And okay, so when it comes time for a gestational carrier to have to get a policy, is it normally the IPs who are reaching out, or do you guys go through work with agencies and stuff?
Yeah, so it depends on, typically if we're working with an agency, the agency connects with us first. So they're the ones who will say, hey, we need to get insurance. They're the ones who fill out the forms. Typically at that point in time, then from there depends on how the agency wants to work. A lot of times the agencies will say, look, we're just going to get it. We're going to deal with it. We're going to get her on a policy. We're going to pay for it. And you just need to talk to the gestational carrier once to get her actually physically on the policy. And other than that, we're not going to have you talk to anybody. There are other agencies that say, we're going to submit the form, and then we want you to talk to the intended parents. We want you to explain it. We want them to choose the insurance. And of course, we have to talk to the gestational carrier. My preference is that I talk to an intended parent, because I want them to know what they're going to be purchasing. I want to talk to the gestational carrier. I want everyone on the same page of what we're doing. I think it takes liability off of the agencies, but typically the agencies are heavily involved in this process. The only time that we honestly see where the intended parents will just come to us without the agency, twofold, is either if the agency isn't working with us, which everyone should be working with us.
Yeah. No,
obviously. And then
yes,
if they're independent, so if they don't have an agency, then they would come direct to us. We very rarely see gestational carriers reaching out on their own. Sometimes they do, which we're happy to work with them. There is a reality that there's an added expense that before we begin, we would want them to know, hey, are you okay with this fee, and are you okay with these premiums? Because they're usually higher than people are expecting them to be.
Okay.
Yep.
I apologize. I don't understand completely. So I'm just going to ask maybe an uneducated question. So, because I'll just go with California, because you're from California and we live in California. So now the talk about insurances is, you know, there's these liens that are being put on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
yeah. So you guys aren't like you guys are your own insurance. Is that, or are you guys suggesting like, oh, hey, they live in this state, this is the insurance that they fall under?
Yeah, so we will suggest policies outside of us. So we
Okay.
suggest Blue Cross Blue Shield, Anthem, Aetna. I mean, depending, of course, on the state where you are with the languages, but we work with carriers that you would see, you know, with their own advertisements
Yeah.
through an employer. Like we work with a lot of those same carriers and help place the policies through that. So in order for us to work with them, we have to review every single evidence of coverage because they're not the same across the board. They're not even the same within, like if there's one network and another network, but it's the same carrier, they could be separate language. So we do we start gathering them in September and reviewing them, and we will not place somebody on a policy unless it's been fully vetted.
Okay.
Obviously by our company. So.
Oh my gosh. Can you explain a little bit what these liens would mean?
Yes. Yeah. So I hate them. I hate them so much. And
how new are they?
Huh?
How new are the liens?
So they're not new. This is like, I
Okay.
think this is where, okay, so Kaiser is like your tried and true company who's had a lien forever. They've always had a lien. I mean, since I've been with the company for 13 years, they've had it since then. So this is not a new thing.
Okay.
What ended up happening was that outside of Kaiser, no one really had it. And then all of a sudden, we started seeing them pop up. And the first time it popped up was actually in HealthNet. But we didn't use HealthNet very often. And so we're like, well, that's fine, whatever, that's fine. Then it popped up inside of Sharp, which Sharp is a tiny insurance carrier down in San Diego. And we said, okay, well, we don't use Sharp very often, so we're fine there.
Okay.
And then it popped up in Blue Shield.
Yeah.
And that is where we had 95% of our surrogates enrolled.
Yikes.
The state of California was in Blue Shield because it was across the board. It was a PPO. They had beautiful networks. It was just a glorious insurance to be on. And then they brought in the lien. And what a lien is it's a little bit different than you would think, like a lien on a house or on a car or something like that.
Okay.
The way that they look at it is actually a right to reimbursement. So that's what it really is. It's not really a lien. It's a right to reimbursement. And what that means is that there is a contract between the gestational carrier and the intended parent that says, we're going to compensate you for being our gestational carrier, and we're going to ultimately, as an intended parent, be responsible for these medical expenses. Okay. So the insurance company took a look at this and looked at it almost like a workers' comp or a car accident. So more on the side of a personal injury case, and said, well, since you're being compensated for a medical situation that somebody else is responsible for, we're going to seek that reimbursement against those medical expenses that they're responsible for. And that's how they got to do the right of reimbursement.
Got it.
It is the bane of my existence. I think it's completely wrong. I do think it's discriminatory. We have brought it to the state of California. We brought it to the Department of Managed Healthcare, which is the DMHC, which runs all of our individual plans. We've talked to their attorneys. We've talked to discrimination attorneys. We've talked to class action lawsuit attorneys to see what can we do. So we've really tried to say, okay, we believe this is all wrong. And I don't, I mean, outside of me not agreeing with it, what legally can I do that says, hey, this really shouldn't happen? Nothing, obviously. The way that liens work is that if there's a thing called a contract lien or contract right to reimbursement, and if you write it, so it shall be. And so since it's written in a contract, then they get to abide by it. It's not discrimination because it's not against an entire class of women, just a subclass of women. So therefore it's not considered discrimination, which these are all things that I got to learn over the last couple of years as I've been like arguing and fighting and very frustrated. So
See, and I would think that that would be a class of discrimination.
So
Just because,
I did too. And so
Mm.
interestingly enough, my stepdad's actually an insurance attorney.
Oh,
And
really?
I talked to him and I said, well, is it not? And he said, it's not, because you're not discriminating against the entire class. So in order for you to have a discrimination suit, it needs to be against an entire class of people. And it's not, it's against a subclass. So
Subclass,
they said
yeah.
all women or all pregnant
women.
Right. That's
Right.
not the case. They said gestational carriers.
Right.
So
wow. Way to go around the loophole.
I mean, honestly.
That is insane. Yeah, because this is something that's been coming up more and more. As agencies, I know, talk to gestational carriers, and they're like, hey, this is, to get you, because I live in California, to get you Blue Cross Blue Shield, it really goes off of your compensation. And I'm like, wait, what? Because I've had that multiple times within the past 5 years, and that wasn't a thing for Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Right.
So this is like very new for Blue Cross Blue Shield. And I'm just like, this is so messed up. Like,
is a lien how am I going to phrase this? A percentage of the compensation? Is it a set percentage for each insurance company?
So this is really, I'm going to get into the weeds for a minute. Hold on tight. Here we go.
Yeah.
Okay. So the lien, the way it works is that there is a statute. It's California Civil Code 3040 for all those who want to look it up.
Okay.
And it says that if you're going to have a right to reimbursement or a lien or anything like that, that you can only the insurance company can only ask for 50%. Or
50?
50.
Okay.
Or if you are represented by an attorney, which every gestational carrier is represented by an attorney, then it's 33.4%. And that's up, 33.4% of compensation. So here's the kicker, which was really frustrating when I was talking to the Department of Managed Healthcare, which again runs all the ACA plans.
Okay.
They said that if that language does not exist in the policy, meaning they do not reference Civil Code 3040 within their policy, they do not have to abide by Civil Code 3040.
Oh, wow.
So that means that they can have up to all 100% of compensation. So Blue Shield started with the third. They referenced 3040.
Okay.
And the next year it went to 50%, and they took out Civil Code 3040. And this year, 2023, it's full compensation. So they've increased it every year. They've originally, again, they abided by the 3040. They said, we'll go with that. Then the next year it was 50, and then this year it was 100%. So,
if a surrogate's compensation is say 65,000, and they're trying to get them in with Blue Cross Blue Shield, the lien is 65,000.
Yeah.
And that's on top of how much the IPs pay for the policy.
That's on top of premium. That's on top of deductible. That's on top of out-of-pocket maximum.
Oh my God.
Right. Yeah. So they're trying to deter this from even happening.
100%. That's the whole goal, is they do not want to cover surrogates.
Right.
They cannot state that out loud.
Correct.
They can't say we're not going to cover them, because in the state of California, you can't, really it's not the state of California, it's really the Affordable Care Act says you can't have a carve out for an essential health benefit, which is maternity. So you cannot say this one group of maternity will not be covered. So that's where they're not allowed. And the Department of Managed Healthcare has come out and said, you can't do that, because one of the carriers, Molina, tried to do that. And we said, nope, you can't do that. And then they got a letter and a slap on the wrist, maybe some fines, that said, hey, Molina, you have to cover surrogates. You can't do that. But the way around it, as you said, was that we're just going to make it really painful and expensive for you, the gestational carrier and IPs, to have this policy.
So California, being such a surrogate-friendly state for decades and decades and decades, is now becoming the, oh no, we don't want our surrogate in California. This is what I'm thinking. If I was an IP, I want mine in New York, or I want mine over in somewhere else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's definitely becoming increasingly hard, or what you're seeing is it is only becoming available to those who are able to financially swing those amounts, right? Which then becomes prohibitive for others. And that's really what we're trying not to do. So yes, it has changed the landscape of of California and the surrogates and journeys going on here. Absolutely.
Do you have, not agencies per se, well, maybe, do you have scenarios in which, and I'm probably going back to California because it seems like we're the ones who are getting slapped a lot, where they say, okay, so we're going to have our gestational carrier
Mhm.
use their insurance for all the prenatal stuff, and then we're going to buy a policy just to cover the delivery and baby. Is that a thing?
I think if there's an exclusion, then no.
Okay.
The
Okay.
one thing that we would do, honestly, and this is where it depends on how much the compensation is, but as you said, if it's upwards of 65,000, we're not going to put them on a Blue Shield policy. We're probably going to do something like a Lloyd's policy, where the cap is going to be 35,000. So, you know,
Okay.
who knew that Lloyd's was ever going to be the inexpensive option? Because I
Right.
can tell you, I never thought that I would say, oh, let's
Wow.
go with Lloyd's. It's going to be less expensive than
Right.
major medical insurance on the market.
Okay. So there are other options then.
There are other
They're
options.
still pricey. They're still
Yeah,
pricey.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No matter what, the cost on the medical insurance realm has drastically gone up. Now, there are insurance companies that don't have liens, and we do try and find them.
Mhm.
It does get harder and harder, and some of those insurance companies don't allow anyone to have any other insurance. So if you have TRICARE, if you have any form of Medicaid, if you have group insurance through a spouse or through yourself, then you can't access the less expensive insurance, or you have to get rid of whatever insurance is over here so that you can access it.
Wow.
So it's a lot of puzzle pieces to
Yeah.
make
Because
fit
that
and work.
puts families at risk, because if the surrogate is the one who's carrying the insurance and she has to get rid of it, how are the other family members, God forbid, covered?
So we go through this a lot. So we talk to them about how,
Yeah.
look, if you're going to ask your gestational carrier to get off their insurance and they have family attached to it, then you need to cover the family. You have to have, and sometimes that is less expensive than dealing with a lien to get them all covered underneath it. We also let them know that, hey, you need to cover them until they can get back onto equal insurance that they had before, because it's not okay for anyone to ever say, jump off your insurance, I'm going to cover you for the journey, we're in the middle of a year, and to drop their insurance in the middle of a year, right?
Yes,
like that's not how that would go. And the attorneys will protect them. So they will make sure that they write into the contract, you have to keep them on this new insurance until they can get back onto their own of equal value prior to. So
got it. Okay.
You can do it. It's not best practice, I will tell you that, and it's not something that we really want people to do, because I think it puts everybody at a greater risk.
Yeah, agreed. Wow.
That sounds so awful. Like, it's just so,
it's a shame.
It's so sad. We just you know, we're in California, but we just talked to somebody New York Surrogacy Center in New York. Yeah, and I don't know if you know Joe Williams, but he was on and we talked to him, and he was letting us know how insurance works over there, and majority of the insurance in New York covers surrogacy. And I'm like,
not even a problem. It's
right?
Yeah, Department of Financial Services runs it, and it's very clear on their website. It says if you have Medicaid or you have ACA or small group or large group insurance, absolutely covers surrogacy. Not even a problem. 2 thumbs up.
It's so crazy.
Amazing.
And that should be everywhere, but like, whatever, it's fine.
I know. Everyone's like, where can I get that? And I was like, Nevada, Wisconsin, and New York. And there you go. And that's
You're kidding.
Just 3 states.
Wisconsin, New York. That just put a huge puzzle piece in something that I've been lurking on for about a week now.
There you go.
Got it. Okay. That makes a lot of sense.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So the process then, we'll get back into the process, to get your services. Like, they're filling out a form on the website, they're calling in, both options.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's website, they can call in. Absolutely. They can, sometimes they'll get our email address somewhere from either from the website or from a friend or the agency. All of our agencies have a dedicated insurance agent that works with them. So they would just connect it directly to their agent, and their agent would work to get whatever services that they need. So that's typically how it comes. We usually, in the terms of calling and emails, we probably filter between 15 to 25 calls and emails. and the rest of it's more of a direct referral from agencies or attorneys coming in.
Okay. And then there's a fee associated with it, right?
Yeah,
From,
okay. Yeah. So it depends on what we're doing. So if we're doing ACA policy placement, or if we're doing like claims management, which I can talk about that a little bit later. But if we're doing something where it's more on a service level, then there's a fee associated. If somebody were to come to us for accidental death insurance, there's not a fee associated with that. So if you're just getting a policy where we're not having to review evidence of coverages, and I usually for ACA we have it touches the minimum of 10 people in my office. I mean, it is labor intensive to get this done. So anything that's kind of just a here's a link and go, there's not a fee associated with that. Okay. It's more along the lines of, again, of where are we providing a service and what service are we providing? And then yes, there's fees for that.
Yeah. And I'm sure it's well worth the fee for people.
I mean, I think it is.
I do. Absolutely. No, seriously, because if you get in the wrong plan and you think you're covered, and here go baby comes born, and boom, and baby goes to NICU. Oh Lord. Yeah.
Yeah. There's and the thing that sometimes people are like, well, I'll get on the insurance and then I'll have you review it, because our reviews are 300, placing insurance is 485. So like, well, I'll do it and then you just review it. I'm like, and then what if it comes back bad? Then, then we're gonna have to, then you're gonna have to pay for it anyway. So
that's a very nominal
fee. Have us do it.
That's not a lot. That's very nominal.
It's not. And honestly, I think that's one of the things that it's not one of the things. We have kept our fees low because that's not why we're here. We're not here. We're not here to be millionaires in any capacity. We're here to do a good job, and we're here to make sure that people are in good risk averse. I'll never say free. Policies.
We should send a couple of you guys over to Blue Cross Blue Shield and have them adapt your mindset.
That would be nice. I'll go knock on their door. So I have Blue Shield as my insurance provider, much to my day. And they said, they sent out a survey and they're like, tell us what you think. And I was like, buckle up. I am happy to tell you what I think about you.
It's just, it's so crazy. It's within the past couple of years. My mind can't wrap around it. So
I had Blue Cross Blue Shield. I did this like 22 years ago, and I had Blue Cross Blue Shield for all three. It was no big deal. They just paid the premiums. They were a little higher than what I pay. I'm like, okay, got off that insurance, still had mine. No big deal.
You know what I think honestly, what I think happened, because it happened right after kind of these series of events, was we had a lot of international intended parents putting the NICU babies onto Blue Shield, which legally they're actually not allowed to do, because they're not residents of the United States. They're not residents of California, but that was happening. And I think it was a knee-jerk reaction to not having GCs on that policy and then adding babies to that policy, having millions of dollars of NICU.
Exactly.
The reason that I think that is because Blue Shield contacted us and said, who is your demographic? Who are you actually writing policies for? And we said, surrogates, like, obviously open and upfront about it. We said, just national carriers and surrogates. And they said, what is that? Of course, because why do people not, like, how do people still not know this?
Still not know.
It's insane.
So I explained what it was, and they said, well, what do you do for the babies? And we said, well, we don't put the babies on because legally they shouldn't be on the policies. And then we said, and by the way, we wrote you 4 different times and asked you what your stance was on the babies, and nobody responded to us. So we just didn't do it because we didn't have an okay. And based on, if you go by the letter of the law, it was a no. And they said, well, we have a lot of NICU babies from surrogates. And I said, yep. They know that are going on the Blue Shield policies. And I said, go talk to your hospitals, because your hospitals are the ones that are putting them on those policies.
Yeah.
Interesting. Because the birth. Okay. Yeah.
That's the birth. So when it happens, the hospital is terrified that they're not going to get paid. So the social workers come in and say, let me get you insurance, and get them onto the insurance, which they have every right to do. However, I think some people look at it and they're like, oh, they're US citizens, the babies are, so that's fine. But there is a part of the Affordable Care Act that says you have to be a resident and you have to have an intent to continue your residency. And international intended parents, and including the baby, do not have or carry that intent. So again, we tried to combat it when it first started really happening, and there was no response from them, and then it became a large issue. And then I think they did a knee jerk, and the knee jerk was, then we just don't want to work with surrogates, and how do we get around that?
Look at
Sarah,
that.
can I ask you a question then? So, okay, so if a policy, you know, is given to the gestational carrier, right, for prenatal, for delivery, what does happen to the baby? Where does the baby go for insurance?
So if you're domestic, it should be pretty breezy. They're going to go onto the intended parents insurance, or they'll get their own policy because of course they're US citizens and they reside. So you have those two covered. If they're international, there are outside insurance options. So there's a company called Great Morning. The Lloyd's companies offer insurance. Sometimes the insurance in their home countries will take care of it. So there's a variety of options that can happen. I will tell you that most intended parents don't insure.
Oh,
okay.
So they'll go in for a cash situation. Now, we also have to take a look at it and say, okay, well, when this was all really happening with Blue Shield, which was about 7 years ago, that the whole real large NICU thing happened, there was still a big push on twins, and we don't see that push anymore, right? We see much more along the lines of either dual journeys and or just singletons. So there's been such a reduction in the amount of twins that people look at the insurance and say, well, the risk is 4% for having a NICU baby. I'm gonna take that risk, right? Whereas twins, it's 51% for having a NICU baby. So because the risk is low, people choose not to insure. So most of them don't insure.
You, and this just, you were talking about dual. I think they're like tandem journeys or something. So that means that the couple would have to be paying for two policies. Correct? Which means 2 liens.
Yeah, if there's a lien on the policy, for sure, 2 liens. But I would be like, get out of California if you're going to do that. Doing something completely different, right? Because that I would not want to deal with 2 liens ever.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I hate being in California now. This is so awful. It used to be like the end all be all place.
Oh, it was the Mecca. It was the Mecca for surrogacy.
It used to be the Mecca. It used to be the end all be all for everything, you know.
And it's still great. Like I said, it's we still have a lot. I mean, California is still our largest state, no matter what. Even with the liens, it has not. It's reduced it down, but it has not stopped it. It's just, I think, more or less, there's been a transition. If financially that's not something you can swing, then you're not doing it in California. Whereas it was definitely something that didn't really matter. Obviously, anyone who's going through surrogacy, yes, there are excess funds and they're able to do that. And whether it's, lots of varieties of ways that people are able to pull together funds. There's still that aspect of it, but we're talking about, journeys that are getting into the 200,000 plus range, which becomes a full different level of affordability. So
insane.
Knocks a lot of people out.
It does. Or again, it makes them have to choose something outside of a place that is really great. I mean, California is really great. Sunshine and all the fun stuff that goes along with it. So.
It used to be great. No, I'm just kidding. Gas isn't.
No, I don't miss that.
Yeah, I bet you don't. So how do insurance premiums get paid then? Is there like an account that's set up through ART? Like,
does it go through the trust?
Yeah. We actually, as agents, are not allowed to pay health insurance premiums. So there's other types of premiums that we can pay, but health insurance specifically, like when we sign our contract with the insurance carrier, it says line items, you cannot pay for premiums. That is obviously my language. There's legalese that goes with that.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I don't have that down pat.
You're good.
But so what ends up happening is 2 things. Either there's either an escrow account set up, which is great and fantastic. And then the premiums are run through escrow,
Okay.
or the intended parents will sometimes put it on their credit card and pay it. I always tell everybody that if it is on an intended parent's credit card, that I actually don't recommend it. And the reason I don't recommend it is because that policy is not theirs. It is the gestational carrier's.
Right.
And there have been times, and it's not often, but there have been enough times where when the journey is done, we're not able to get a hold of the gestational carrier because sometimes things don't end on the best note. And again, this is few and far between, definitely. And the intended parent cannot remove their credit card from the insurance, and we can't cancel insurance unless we have in writing saying from the gestational carrier saying, please cancel my policy. So they have to then fight with their credit card company or bank to get it removed as a unauthorized charge. So
Wow.
I actually don't, because of that. And again, even though it's few and far between, I don't recommend it. I recommend escrow. I always recommend escrow. I say that is the easiest, best way to do it. If the carrier doesn't accept third party, which means that they're not going to accept payment from anyone else but the gestational carrier, which can happen, then I say, great, then have escrow pay the gestational carrier, and then she can pay.
Right.
I've had to do that.
I have had to do that too.
Given and like, you know, I just have to prove like, yes, it went to it went to here. Okay.
Wow.
Very interesting.
So
Yeah, because I mean you're right. It's very rare that happens, but it does happen. It's happened to me, it's happened to her, it's happened to other Apple people. And so not the whole like we don't ever call back and be like, yeah, we're gonna keep the insurance forever. It's like, I'm good. I'm not gonna be that petty.
No.
I'm good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm just going through these. These are so elaborate questions. My mom did these, so
they were so good.
Thank you so much.
They were so good. I was
you.
reading through them and I was like, gosh, these are great questions.
Thank you.
FAQ and make a document from them. They were so good.
Love it.
Let's see. Maybe we kind of already talked about this one, but so you also manage maternity claims and have saved clients a significant amount of money. Is this a service that is done for all clients if they obtain insurance through ART, or is it a separate resource?
It's a separate resource. So it's a lot of work.
Is it?
Yeah. So the way that we run it, and again, we don't cut corners. I think that's the bottom line. So we have a very service-oriented team.
Yeah.
And in order to do it in the manner that we feel best protects everybody, because that is why somebody is signing up with us, is to be protected.
Yeah.
We have HIPAA releases for any insurance that they're on. Sometimes there's 1, 2, or 3 different insurance companies. Wow. We have a generic HIPAA so that we can talk to the doctors and the lab technicians. And it's not to get any information regarding results, but it's to make sure, did you get the insurance, number 1, and then did you send it to the insurance company, number 2, and insurance company, did you pay, because that always is important, and number 4, any balance, was that taken care of? So we have, for every claim that comes through, we have a minimum of 4 touches or 4 different people that we need to talk to make sure that that claim's been processed appropriately. If it's 2 insurances, then just add more people to the mix, basically. At the end of the journey, every single claim has been touched. It's been processed through our system, all of our touch points. It has been what we call zero balance, which means that we call the provider and say, do you have any outstanding claims whatsoever? Is there anything pending? The provider will say yes or no. If they say no, then we say, great, can we get what's called a zero balance statement? And that means that they have nothing in the records whatsoever that's outstanding. And when we get that, it means that even if they find something, I usually can go back and argue and say, no, you told us there was nothing left, and you signed off saying that there was nothing left. That's been closed and we're done. So we're finished. It also, because insurance companies have this thing called timely filing, which means that every provider has anywhere from 6 months to 18 months to submit a claim to the insurance company. And if they do not submit that claim in that time, they cannot, and the insurance company has the right not to pay. And So that's something that we make sure of, is that, again, if I call a provider's office and they're saying, yeah, she came in 3 different times, and I look at the portal and I'm saying, well, I only have 2 visits here, then I can call back and say, you know what, we're missing this service date from you. We need to make sure that it gets over to the insurance company. You know, you guys send it through, and then we hound everybody to confirm it's been sent through. So
That's a lot.
it is an additional, it is a lot. It is an additional charge, definitely.
Okay.
Should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
But I could see how that could save potentially
Oh yeah.
Well, so
huge savings
yeah, so
for clients.
we've saved over $2 million for our clients in that service. I mean, it is significant. It really is.
Awesome.
There's so much duplication of bills that people don't realize because it ships passing in the night.
Mhm.
So the agency will get a bill. It is for maternity. Great, fantastic. Sends over to escrow. Escrow pays it. Another bill comes in, because by the time escrow paid it, they're now sending out a second notice. They look at it and say, oh, this is another bill. Send it over to escrow. Escrow pays it. So,
wow.
and they don't return it back as much as you would
No.
love. I love those doctor's office to be like, oh, hey, we were paid twice. That's actually not how that works. You have to call them and say, hey, we double paid you and I need that money back. And then you call every other day for several months, and then eventually you'll get paid back. But they're not keen on returning funds willy-nilly.
Yeah.
Even though it's
so nipping that in the bud before it even happens there
is crucial. And honestly, what we find is that, like, if you have one policy, I don't think it's necessary. I always tell everybody, it's like driving a Toyota or driving a Mercedes. You're going to be safe and fine in a Toyota. There is nothing wrong with that car. It is a great car. It's got great safety features. It's got a killer sound system. Like, you're going to be super solid in this car, right? The Mercedes, okay, might be just a little bit nicer. We might have, like, there's a couple extra airbags and right, maybe a little upgrade on that sound system, but ultimately you're gonna be safe in a Toyota, 100%, right? No matter what. And that's kind of how I say it, like with the claims management, when you only have one policy, because likely we're the ones who got you the policy, so we're okay. And if anything goes awry with it, because we stand behind everything that we do, I'm gonna fix the problem. So that's not where I see claims management useful. Where I see it useful is in the scenario where you have another insurance and that insurance is not good for surrogacy. And so we have to make sure that nothing goes to that insurance, nothing's processed through that insurance, and that they do what's called coordination of benefits, which means that they're looking at both policies saying, who's on first, who's supposed to pay first, who's supposed to pay second. And that's where we make sure everything hits the right person and goes through at appropriate times, so that we don't hit that lovely untimely filing.
Right. Yep. Okay.
So I like it there.
Yeah.
That's where I think it's necessary.
That's fair.
That's where I'm like, okay, this is a Pinto, and this one here. We may not want to be in the Pinto just right now. So
I mean, do you guys deal with life insurance and like policies like that? So do you have a personal or a company opinion on what a life insurance policy should look like for a gestational carrier?
Absolutely. Minimum of 500,000.
Minimum. Okay.
I don't think any journey should be at 250.
Okay.
Because 500,000 is not going to break any intended parent's bank. Not one intended parent's bank is it going to break. The reason why I say 500,000, and I mean, honestly, let's say $1 million, right? Okay, that's fine too. After 500,000, it becomes increasingly difficult to actually get the life insurance. Now, I think when you talk to Joe, he probably said, oh, life insurance in New York is a minimum of 750,000. Like you cannot get below the 750. That's fine. And now they're finding that it's increasingly difficult to get it that kind of coverage. So they have a law in place that you can't always abide by, but so we're trying, we're working with them. So as you get up in life insurance, you have to prove why, and usually it's financially why that's needed, right? And it is the what I would call the gross part of life insurance of we're putting a dollar amount on a human life, and that I think is the gross part of life insurance. it's why does get increasingly difficult, because unless you're making the amount of money that's needed to say, okay, well, when you pass,
Right.
then this makes sense for you to have. What we've done a lot of is we've put together what a stay-at-home mom does and said, if you hired out for everything a stay-at-home mom did, it's like, I think when we calculated it out, it's over 400,000 a year. If you had a private chef, if you had a chauffeur, if you had daily housekeeper, if you had a daily childcare person, like you had a travel, a travel agent, like you take everything in your life and you hire out for that. And that's about what it would cost you. So we've been able to get things through in that manner when we itemize it out. But it is harder. So I say 500,000 is easy. Like all day long, you can get it. And I would say that I would love that to be the minimum.
Yes. Agreed.
Okay. I'm here for that.
Fun fact, 20 some odd years ago, it was 500,000.
That's so crazy. And then it went down to 250. And
because I have a 250 policy.
Yeah. I think it was because 250 became guaranteed issue. So you could get 250 all day long. You had no underwriting, you had no paramed, just there you go, apply online and you have it right then. And so I think it just kind of like shifted because it was easy.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Very interesting though.
I don't know why. That's my thought process.
What else you got on there?
What is the most sought after service by IPs that you offer? Is it gestational surrogacy?
Insurance?
No, it's policy validations.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, it's policy validations. So I guess it's actually neck and neck. So it used to be policy validations until this year. So we do about 2,500 policy validations a year, and we put insurance-wise, what we put into place, like maternity insurance, sits at about 23, 24.
Wow.
So it's really, but it used to be like, this is our largest year. Before that, we sat at 1,600 for putting maternity in place.
Oh, wow.
So
what a jump.
Oh my gosh.
God.
We were not ready for it. I can tell you that.
Jesus.
I was like, I swear to God, I'm going to come into like this huge exodus of people from our office. I was so terrified.
Wow.
Luckily we didn't have that. Everyone's still there. And
I'm
thankful, but I was really worried. So yeah, but I would say like in terms of people calling in on a daily basis, it's policy validations.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
That's cool though. I mean, and kudos to you guys for jumping high with that one.
Well, for even just getting the niche, this is a great little niche that you got. I think it's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I want to, the agency that called over 20 years ago, they're still in business, and they've been sold a couple times, but I was talking to one of the ladies who's been there for 14 years. So right around when I came into play, and we were saying how crazy it was of just all the different changes, and from, when she came to what it is now, and even from when the original owner had it to here, it's like
nuts,
night and day.
Yep.
Maybe you said this. How long has Art been around?
So officially we were incorporated in 2010. However, it used to be called the Resource Group, and because we were still doing small group and large group and employee benefits, and so the the surrogacy side was this tiny piece of this business.
Wow.
And then after probably 2010, we really started to grow. And then when ACA happened, we pivoted before ACA actually came into play, and that pivot was critical for the community, and we were the only ones who did. And so our business, that was it. I mean, it took off after that because we saw that need of it coming and understanding, okay, we've got a choice to make, because everything was Lloyd's. Everything was Lloyd's. And we said, we can't, that's not going to be the way of the future, and we're going to have to see what this is. And at the time, we were not charging to put ACA policies, or they weren't ACA, they were just major medical, but we weren't charging to put them in place. We were making 10% commission. So there's no need to charge. ACA came around and it cut commissions down to 1%. And we were like, well,
Whoa.
we can't survive off of that. We can't run a business, which is why we started actually charging for it. Was we've got to charge for the service now that we're not going to be paid commission. A lot of the insurance carriers cut agents completely, said, we're done with agents. We don't want to have them as a part of our business model.
Wow.
So in order to get and service clients the way we needed to service them, we needed to have a larger staff to be able to do so, because a lot of our resources went away.
Yeah.
So it was a major shift. It was a major shift for our business.
Jeez.
Yeah. It was, I mean, I'm thankful for it, for
Yeah.
sure. It drove us to be able to provide additional support for people, because I don't think we would have looked at it otherwise.
Mhm.
But it's been kind of cool. Like I always tell everybody that everything that we have in our office, every program we have, and even every insurance policy that we have, is driven out of need from the community. We've had intended parents or agencies come to us and say, hey, I need something different than the term lives. We're getting really stuck. Okay, let's create an accidental death policy. So we went to London with Universal Family and said, we got to have an AD policy. Then when the Affordable Care Act came out and it was, hey, you only have this teeny tiny window to get insurance and nothing else for the rest of the year, we said, okay, your primary $30,000 policy isn't going to cut it. So we got to come up with different ideas. What if we did a bridge the gap? What if we did a sleep easy? What if we did a contingent? What if we took it and slashed the price and said, only if you need to use it do you have to pay this much? So we've really tried to, as everything, because things do change, as they shift and change, to be able to bring things to market that makes sense and try and keep that cost down, again, as low as possible for intended parents.
You hit on a topic of AD, accidental death.
Yeah.
If a surrogate, God forbid, passes away during delivery, would that be considered an accidental death if they had an accidental death policy?
It is. Yeah, the way that they write, the way it's an accidental death, we only write accidental death through the Lloyd's market, because their definition of accidental death is very broad, number one. Number two, the policy is specifically written for surrogacy. So they know what they're getting into. They know why we're purchasing this policy. Their view on accident is anything out of a standard normal pregnancy. Well, let's be real here. Death is not a part of a standard normal pregnancy. That is not definitely something, right, that no one anticipates occurring and nobody wants to occur. So those are the things where that would then fall underneath their definition of accident.
Okay.
Understood.
Do you sell a lot of those? I'm sorry, I got to get just back into
No,
that
that's okay. So we do. So we probably we put, I mean, it's not as many, because we do term life and there's other people that sell it, and some people already have their own life insurance. And so I would say though that we're probably setting 25 to 2,700 accidental death policies.
Gosh. Okay.
A year. Now I would say it depends on, sometimes we're doing term life too, because we also do term life. So sometimes that's honestly the better option sometimes, is the term life than over the accidental death, especially when COVID happened, because the Lloyd said, hey, we're not going to cover COVID. And I was like, well, that's going to be a problem. So so we can start putting people into safer policies. So
wow. God, crazy. Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
On a different topic. So, because there's talk in the community, and so I'm confused as to, a lot of people say, oh, art risk solutions, they're the policy, they're the groundbreakers, everybody follows you guys. Is that accurate? Is that an accurate statement?
You set the bar.
I mean, I love that.
Oh, okay. I don't know. No,
yes, absolutely.
No, what I mean is that that you guys are like, if it doesn't follow art's standards, then it's not the correct.
People aren't
standard.
endorsing.
That's what I've heard through passing.
Yeah,
That if it doesn't
a lot
follow
of
your
the people
standards,
we've
it's
talked
not
to.
the correct.
So
standards.
I I'm gonna say I love that too. Our bar is high.
Yeah.
If we're gonna work with an insurance policy, it's been fully vetted.
Okay.
We will not work with a new insurance unless it's been around for a minimum of 2 years.
Okay.
Are we all aware of the Life Grow situation where okay, so there was an insurance company a couple of years ago that came out and they were undercutting everything. And they said, you're going to pay us $750 a month, and we're going to cover singleton, twins, delivery. You need an eye exam, you need a chiropractor, whatever it was. We're going to cover everything. Oh, and there's no deductible. Oh, and there's no out-of-pocket maximum. Just pay us $750 and you're good to go.
Wow.
So we looked at this and we met the owners of that insurance and we said, how?
Yeah.
Right.
How?
Wow.
Because an average pregnancy, or not average, it's average, is $22,000. So how are you charging $750 for 10, 11, even 12 months? And they said, oh, our actuarial list said it's fine. I'm like, oh. Okay, fine. So we warned everybody. We said, this is not what I would do. And I would absolutely not go forward with it. This is a horrible situation, but it went bankrupt within 18 months, which we said it's going to go bankrupt. It did. It went bankrupt in 18 months. Their money was in the Caymans, so nobody could file against them. The DOJ is involved and the FBI is involved and trying to figure out what happened, but it was over 7 million in unpaid claims from I think 600 or 700 journeys.
Oh my God.
Bankrupt. They falsified I don't know about they did.
Yeah.
But,
Someone.
there were falsified documents that stated that there was it's called a reinsurer, and it means that if anything happens to the insurance company or if anything happens to that claim, there's another body that's going to take care of you. And every insurance company, if they're not large enough, should have this reinsurer. And it makes it a safe policy and secure policy. And they said that they had one. And again, whether they knew what was going on or not, that's all, who knows? But the reinsurer did not exist. And,
oh my gosh.
So when this all happened, there was no way for any of these claims to get paid because there was no money. So premiums were anyone that paid into it, the premiums were fully gone. The claims couldn't get paid. People are still cleaning it up. It happened in 2020 is when it all, 2020. Yeah. Yep. October 2020 is when it happened.
Jeez.
So
scary.
Yeah. So that's why I think why I appreciate the comment of that. I think it's because we will not touch, like, that's why I said we won't touch an insurance company until it's been around for 2 years, because that actually is enough for enough journeys to go through to see, is this policy going to stand on its own 2 feet? Is it set up financially in a way that's going to be able to be sustainable? And that's really what we look at all the time is a policy sustainable? Is it not? As much as I don't like the fact that Lloyd's is expensive, it's sustainable. It's been around for over 25 years. There's a reason for that. When you look at it and say, okay, well, the average pregnancy is 22. Okay, well, charging $30,000 for a policy where they're paying out $22,000 on every policy, you should kind of sit back and go, okay, well, then it's not really overpriced. That's not a crazy amount for having to pay out $22,000, right?
Yep.
So,
wow.
So I like hearing that because I hope that we are.
Well,
I hope we do set the standard for everybody and that everybody follows in line.
I think a lot of people, and nowadays you guys are like putting a lot out there on Instagram and stuff, and so it's become very informative. So it's become more so of a conversation, which is good. We need more of these conversations because we all need to know what the heck is going on and not just be told go left, go right, go up, go down. Like,
I agree.
Okay, like you say go, and we do, but it's good to know.
A bunch of our guests on here have talked about art, and so Kennedy reached out and she's like, we need to get them on if they'll come on. And I'm like, yeah we do. What is this all about?
I love it. I love it.
Very cool.
We what's interesting is it kind of what resonated with what you just said was the go right, go left, right. We find this to happen a lot with gestational carriers, that not a lot is always explained, and a lot is dictated, and there's a lot of lack of control over what you're able to do. And we've talked a lot about it in our office, and we're putting together like little programs here and there of being able to get out and educate gestational carriers and putting things together. So we're starting with independence right now. We just started a program where any independent journey that comes through us, we require a consult with the gestational carrier so that we can walk through, hey, this is what you're going to be responsible for. These are the types of insurances. Let's explain to you what this means for you. Let's explain other things that we've got going on in case you want to talk to your attorneys about this. We're starting monthly meetings with gestational carriers where they can pop in and ask insurance questions, because there's such a lack of education surrounding this. And that we know that agencies have a lot on their plates, and in an independent journey, it's the boards, or it's the intended parent, like they're your educational pieces, right? And so we really we've been mulling over this for a couple of years. And then I have a wonderful employee who was a former gestational carrier, and during open enrollment, she's like, we can do better. We can absolutely do better. And I was like, let's do better. So after open enrollment, we sat down and said, okay, how do we do better? And what can we do to support you, like to support the gestational carriers that are an integral part of this journey, right? Like how do we extend our support and what we can do? And obviously we're limited, but at the same time, we always felt like when we call you and we put things in place, I'm asking for your social. I'm asking for, are you married? Are you not? Your address, your date of birth. I'm asking for potentially passwords to your insurance. I mean, to me, I said that. I'm like, if somebody called me and was like, give me all your info, I'd be like, that's cute. Nope, I'm good. Thank you so much. And it's a 15-minute conversation for a lot of personal information getting sent over to us. And more and more, as it should be, we're finding resistance, as it should be. You should.
I have been asked several times, oh, can we get the password to your, and I'm like, no, I'll just get you the benefits. Like it might take some time, but like, I'm not gonna, I don't know you. Like, I don't know what you're gonna do.
And it's hard. Like, I mean, and as much as, yes, I love our office and I think we're trustworthy and I love the people there, and we're all underneath HIPAA, and we have NDAs and we have confidentiality agreements, and we have all of that in place. The bottom line is that it's your personal information. And I think, maybe I'm going to get shot for this, I think there's a lack of respect for that. And I don't like that. So,
no, you're here. You will not get shot anywhere. I swear. Like it's so true. This is why we do the podcast, because controversial topics, things aren't talked about. Like, and nowadays,
I was like, say no. You can say, I'm like, we have gestational carriers all day that say no to us. Do I get frustrated? Yeah, because it makes my job harder. But at the same time, if I were sitting in your shoes, I would say, as I said, I would say no. Yeah, I really would, unless somebody got on the phone with me and explained to me why I needed to give you this information.
Exactly. I think because a lot of the times it becomes so business, and it's like, and it just feels like a cold call. Yeah. And it's like,
and believe me, we're, like I said, we are fully guilty of that. When we get into open enrollment mode, it is like burn and turn to get everything done. And but you sit back, and we've talked a lot about this, especially over the last couple of years. I think COVID was a really big mindset shift for us. Of everybody's human on the other end of this phone. And it's not something that I ever want to feel like I don't know, that you're just like, you're calling and saying, great, thank you so much, okay, bye, and hanging up, being like, you just handed me your entire life. And I didn't like that. Like I said, it leaves me feeling, I don't know, gross, icky. Like at the end of the day, I don't like that. And so we did, like this year, we hired extra temps so that we could spend more time on the phone with gestational carriers. And like I said, with the Indy program, we have the consult set up so that we can talk through everything with them. We are doing the same thing during open enrollment next year of everybody will get a phone call, and you can choose to call us back and have a conversation or not. Because some gestational carriers are fine. They're like, you know what? Here it is. I'm super busy. Just whatever you need to do to get this in place.
Sure.
Solid. Make that happen.
Right.
Others so much. And I want to be able to respect everyone's comfortability with that.
You mentioned that you're doing like a monthly meeting
Yeah, I was gonna
that
say.
people can jump in and maybe ask questions. Would they go on your website to find that meeting? Is it open to
So
all?
we're starting this in August. So will it will be on the website. We'll send out an email regarding it, and then I will absolutely let you guys know when it starts. I'm excited about it.
No, the community will be excited too.
And it's a fully free form, so it's not I might have I think we talked about it and we decided that we're going to do a topic, but the topic's going to be maybe like 10 minutes. Like we just want to share a little bit to get that little ice broken and things like that, and get people's brains going, and then really just keep it open for people to ask questions. How does this work? What does this happen? We've done it several times for intended parents and agencies, and it works really well. And then if there's something that's really detailed, then we pull it offline and we say, you know what, let me set up a time to talk to you, and let's go through this because this is very specific to you.
Oh my gosh,
and then we handle it that way. But it's new and it's exciting, and I love doing new things. And
no, that sounds like it'll be truly amazing, and just
helpful.
So helpful.
Yes,
so helpful. So
because this is the scary part. Yeah.
Will it be like a Zoom situation?
Yeah, it will be. So it will. I usually use a GoToMeeting, and then everything gets recorded. The reason I like GoToMeeting is that it keeps it a little bit more anonymous, and then I can record it. So typically what I do is I will have it where anyone can type in a question, and then they type in their question, and I answer it. So that way people don't feel embarrassed potentially by it, or I don't know, some people will keep that off or say, I didn't want to ask it out loud, but I wanted to type it to you. I just figured I find that I get a lot of response that way. And then I can send it out to everybody and say, here you go. And here's all the answers for all the questions that were asked. I can put it onto our website. I can put it on our YouTube channel. It can be there. And that way it's still anonymous.
Right.
Minus me.
Exactly.
Very nice.
That's
great.
Oh my gosh, I'm excited. Please let me know. If you guys post on Instagram, I'll be stalking you and be like, when's it gonna happen and stuff. So
you guys should come and ask questions, do prompts.
Perfect. No, well, I got plenty of questions, even personal questions. Trust me. I'm just holding back right now. So there's a Canadian couple, and they're curious on navigating U.S. surrogates and newborns insurance. So would they just reach out to you guys? How does that?
Yeah. So yes. I guess it's a
short
short
answer. Yes. Contact Sarah.
Because we touched part of that, we kind of went over.
Have them reach out, and then we can talk about the different options that are available. For anyone delivering in the US, we can't get anything going honestly until after the really the 8th, 9th week of gestation. So we have time to do the newborn insurance. It does all have to be done prior to birth, and ideally no later than the 30th week of gestation. I want it in play sooner the better. And so call us.
And then two more. So can they just call their own insurance to make sure it's surrogacy friendly, or do they need it to be vetted by a professional?
We get this question a lot, and of course we want to do it. I think for me it always depends on how it's done. I think sometimes the questions are not asked correctly. And so the answer, you get the answer for the question that you ask. That's the best thing I can tell people. And so sometimes if the question is not asked in the correct way, or using the correct terminology, or having the definitions or explaining exactly what it is. There's a lot of times that we get honestly, we get more no's that way.
Okay.
And gestational carriers who then don't use their insurance, whereas it might have been viable. So, they can. I personally would say that if you're going to do that, I would put it in writing. Like I, as the consumer, would, a lot of times there's those online chat portals that you have through it. I would put the question in there. I'd get something in writing from it, get a reference number so you can look back on that. Protect yourself as much as you can.
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference outside of the phone call is that we also look at coordination of benefit language, subrogation, which is the lien language. So we see what's the likelihood of a lien being assessed with it. And then we also double check outside of that, just the actual physical policy language to see if there's anything else in there that could cause a red flag or cause issues. Okay. So outside of just saying, do you cover surrogacy, which is the typical question that gets asked, we're looking at the whole of the policy to make sure there's not any risk outside of that either. So while I say, yes, you can do it, and if you're going to do it, again, get a reference number or get it in writing, I do think that there's additional items that still need to be reviewed to make sure that the whole of the policy is going to be okay.
Okay. Perfect. Good advice.
That's great. Good answer.
Good advice. If the couple is not willing to purchase a policy and the surrogate's insurance doesn't cover surrogacy, so they don't want to purchase a policy until open enrollment only for delivery, is that viable?
Yeah. How do you do that? How, without the surrogate using her own insurance when she really shouldn't be? Like, right?
Does she have to fight it?
It's a hard one.
You would cash pay, which I tell everybody, I'm like, don't cash pay. But you would cash pay, and then you would get it right ACA for delivery. Now it's no pre-existing conditions, no worries about getting the ACA outside of making sure networks and everything aligns. I would say though that depending on where you are, there may be other options outside of cash pay. So sometimes there's short-term insurance. There are, I think there's 8 states that don't offer short-term insurance, but the rest of them do. So the short-term insurance, it only covers complications, but that's better than nothing. So they would have at least, essentially they'd be cash paying with an inexpensive complications policy behind them. It's like $200 to $250 a month. It's sufficient. They're really nice. If that's not an option in their state, then again, Lloyd's of London does have what I call their baby plans, which is you pay essentially half of it, and then again you are paying cash with the insurance policy behind you, but in case something catastrophic happened, you have a stop loss. And I think that's where I always look at it as how much time is being covered without insurance, right? So if we're talking about a month, 2 months, okay, not terrible. Really, I look at it as if we're doing transfers late September onward, I'm not as concerned.
Okay.
Because there's such a low risk at that point in time. It's a shorter window. When we start to do transfers before that, that's where I say that's a little bit too much time that I personally would be comfortable with. Okay. And I would like to present other options. Now, if I have an intended parent that's like, we're adamant about paying cash, I always ask them, do you have $500,000 laying around? Just a question.
Yeah.
And if you don't have $500,000 just willy-nilly laying around, I would not cash pay. Now, I've had intended parents say, we do. And I said, that's really nice.
Nice.
Yeah, that's great.
You want to loan me any, just a
right.
Golly.
But that's usually my response back is, okay, do you have in fluid cash $500,000 in case there's a complication, because it's your responsibility. And usually when I ask that, then they start to rethink, oh, maybe this $12,000 is not the end of the world for me in the
Right.
scope of what I potentially could pay. And I
Mhm.
think we all know, and a lot of the response times is, but she's been cleared and she's fine. And I'm always like, that's nice.
Yeah.
And that
Right.
definitely is a plus and a positive, and I'm glad that's happened. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be super smooth and that there's not going to be a complication or right. So I say everyone takes the most precautions that we can, but it's never 100%. Nothing is in this journey is ever going to be 100%.
Okay, so if a surrogate was to use her insurance that doesn't cover surrogacy, but she's pregnant and she's being a surrogate, is that considered fraud, or is that just like frowned upon?
So here's the thing. It's not fraud. It is the insurance company's job to vet their claims that are coming through, right? It is their job. If they're not, you can submit, I tell everybody this, you can submit whatever you want through an insurance company, right? You can file a claim right and left. But as long as you're open about what it is, if that insurance company covers it, then they covered it. That was their decision to cover it. If we're hiding things and it's not in medical records, it's not being submitted appropriately, and they called you and said, is this a surrogate pregnancy? And you said no, that is fraud. When you lie or you misrepresent something or you omit, that is fraud. So submitting something in all with earnest is not. And it is the insurance company's responsibility, if they're going to pay something, to ensure that it was meant to be paid. I think it's risky because they have up to 2 years to come back and say, we're not going to pay this. And so a lot of times the journey's done and escrow is closed and you could get bills now. So I don't condone it. It's not something that I would say, yes, let's see if they pay or not. I don't like that. I think like I said, anytime we know that it's not going to cover, I do not think that you should just submit any bills. I think that we should do what we should be doing, which is not using the insurance that's not safe for surrogacy. And let's get into policies that are safe for surrogacy.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. If it's a situation where like, hey, they don't cover infertility, do you think they're going to cover this ultrasound that's at the fertility clinic? I always say, well, submit it, because an ultrasound is an ultrasound is an ultrasound. Like, okay.
Right.
But if you said, hey, I'm going to submit my full, transfer, I would say you can, but I wouldn't, because you're going to end up paying cash for it anyways. So I wouldn't do that. And that's how I feel about your scenario. Again, it puts you on the line potentially later down the road.
I didn't know that they could come back
2
for
years.
2 years. That's terrifying, because escrow's they're gone. Like, especially if it doesn't end on good terms, like it's
right. Honestly, I know we're kind of getting a little, I know we're getting off topic, but it's one of the reasons that I do, when people say, when agencies are like, we'll close escrow in 6 months, I'm like, I wouldn't. You're not going to have every claim taken care of in 6 months. It's not even feasible. Even in our claims management program, we can't close them in 6 months. Our average is a 10-month close. So I'm like, I wouldn't close in 8 months. At a minimum, I'd have escrow open a year, at a minimum. Okay. What we're trying to tell people to do now is, hey, go ahead and close the main escrow, but keep your insurance amount in there, so that we have up to the out-of-pocket maximum, deductibles, all of that in there. Keep that amount in there, and then add a year if everything has been closed out. Then have that. That way, you're not keeping it open for an exorbitant amount, but you are keeping it open to protect what the law is around insurance.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. No, protect everybody at that point. Like at every point, just protect everybody. There's just no point. Like you said earlier, and I was like, oh my gosh, I love that. You were like, we don't cut corners, which is fantastic. Like, nobody in surrogacy should be cutting corners, because cutting corners is going to lead to disasters.
It does, and it just the extra heartache that goes along with that, it's just
it's awful.
It's not worth it.
Not worth it. Completely avoidable.
It is 90% of the time. It really honestly is.
Yeah, it is.
So what is your website? Just
Yes.
give the handle.
Where can people go?
All right. It's artrisksolutions.com.
ARTRISK solutions.com.
Yes, and make sure there's an S at the end of solutions. We get art risk solution a lot, but it is solutions.
Okay.
Yes.
There are multiple solutions.
There are
Got it.
multiple solutions.
Yes.
You tell everybody we're like the options company. Like,
Yeah, there you go.
what can we do? What can we play with? What can we, how can we make all these puzzle pieces fit together? I'm like, maybe you have 3 insurances, but you know what? You're going to save money. We're going to save you some time, and the risk is going to be covered. So we'll figure it out.
Perfect. And is that how people contact you guys? Like, should they email? Should they call?
Yeah, either, through the website, there's going to be a contact page. So I always think that that's a great way. It goes directly in and feeds into, we call them client success liaisons, but that way they'll get back to you within 24 hours. It's really next business day that they'll connect with you. If they have additional questions to help guide you, they'll call or send you an email and say, hey, could you give me a little more information so we can make sure we get you to the right person, or they can call. And if it's outside of business hours, leave a message, we'll call you back. So yeah, either way, it's great.
Oh my God.
Love it.
Well, I don't know. Did we not cover anything? I feel like we covered a lot, but then I always feel like we don't ever cover enough. So
I know.
You covered a lot. Oh my gosh, I feel like we covered so much, which I love. I think one of the things that was on one of the beautiful questions.
Oh yes.
Thank
There's
you.
so many. I'm so sorry.
Thank you so much.
Was are we a one-stop shop? And I think that I love it because Virginia Hart, who's the owner, says that all the time. She's like, I want to be a one-stop shop. If you need anything insurance related, I want to be able to do that. Any services that you need, we're going to take care of you. If he has to fight for you, we're going to fight for you. And so the answer to that is yes. I mean, ultimately, from the start of the journey, throughout the entire thing, through newborn insurance, through any support that's needed, yes, that we can absolutely take care of you.
I love it. I mean,
Really
you guys cover all the bases: life insurance, like right, like life insurance,
life insurance,
and
disability,
accidentals. Everything. It's phenomenal, and I really hope that on my next journey, you guys are utilized in it. I'm gonna make a note.
Put it in your contract.
I will.
That's right.
I definitely will. I know. Well, I see that you guys are in cahoots with Seeds, right?
Yeah. So I'm the membership chair over on Seeds. So if there's an agency or doctor, just reach out, and I would love for anyone to be a member. We'll do a little plug there.
Love it.
Great.
But yeah, so we are members of Seeds. We're actively involved in Seeds. Actually have a brown bag tomorrow that we're doing, another one in July, and then usually we will have a topic at the conference to be able to speak on. So again, a big part of our mission is the education portion and making sure that everyone's on the same page and not doing anything.
Definitely educated us. I used to be in insurance, and like you just blew me away with half the stuff you just said. I was like, wow, yeah.
I'm a medical coder, and I used to do like the billing portion, and I had to quit that because I was like, this is too much for me. Like, I need somebody else to be doing this. So I can like condone what you guys do, because it's a lot. It is not easy work. It is really hard. It's really intricate. It's a lot of moving parts, and you guys, it's phenomenal.
So many.
It's intricate. I think that's what I love about it. So my brain's always a puzzle brain. It has been forever. And as we, like I said, as we continue to, expand our portfolio and things like that, every time I bring somebody in to train, I forget that when I started, we sold Lloyd's policies and we did policy validations.
Oh my gosh.
That's it. That's all we did. That's it. So now when we're training anyone new, it's like, it's a 4 to 6 month process. And like, it's so different just with the breadth of, again, being able to provide different services and policies, and we're not even doing everything that we want to do. It's like every year, like, let's add more.
Yeah,
more.
Exactly. Well, these meetings I cannot wait for, and I'm so excited, and I'm excited.
You're gonna love them.
Everyone else, I think everyone else is gonna be. So
yeah,
you're
gonna love them.
Oh my gosh,
because this is one of the unknowns.
Yeah,
insurance is unknown. People are just getting very flustered by it, and they just end up saying, okay, let's do that. And
Yeah.
a lot of times they can't use their OB who they're very comfortable with. And a lot of times they can't deliver at their
know.
hospital and they're traveling and it's an unknown and it's
I
scary.
know. And I think I love that you said like the unknowns and the OB and traveling and all of that, because it does all play into it. Or
It does.
which we're seeing a lot of which is, hey, move here for the end of the delivery and deliver here for the end of it and be away from family and go to a different state. And I'm like, well, I think we need to talk through all of that and what that means. And of course, like on my side, I would never tell anybody what to do, but I'm like, I have a conversation and make sure this is really what you want to do. And
Yep.
don't compromise on certain things that can affect your family and you.
And
Yeah. And insurance is such a big part of it because it's your healthcare. And like that's like the main thing of surrogacy, because like I'm really attached to my OB, and so like not being able to have him would be like, wait, it's so much anxiety. I have to find somebody new. I have to make a new relationship. Like, I don't want to be cut open. He knows like what I want.
Right.
Like, so it's like so much. So I really cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing all of your wonderful, wonderful knowledge.
This has been great. I'm like so excited to come to California. Get to hang out.
Oh my gosh. I am right by the wineries.
I love it. I'm like, this is going to be so much fun.
And I'll come down. I'm only an hour away.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh
good.
My God.
I really would love that. It's been really, I love doing this, but it's really joyful for me when I get to be with wonderful people. And so I just, thank you.
Thank you. Oh my, you've been such a delight. Seriously. Thank you so much, Sarah. You're amazing.
Of course we went way over, but it was all worth it. So hopefully
we'll
have a little bit of your night back.
Yeah. It'll be good. It'll be good. Well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. And
I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You guys have a wonderful night. And
you too.
I want to come hang out with again. So.
Oh my gosh, yes. We are so
plain.
Come on. It's amazing. Fun. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, guys. All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Awesome. She's awesome.
She's like, she's amazing.
Wow.
I feel so much smarter now.
Because a lot of this stuff she was talking about, because I worked insurance and I worked for workers' comp and I've been in insurance for a long time.
Yeah.
And a lot of these things that she was talking about, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that filters over to surrogacy. Oh my gosh, accidental death. Are you kidding? Like,
how crazy.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. When she was giving her explanation on like kind of how like insurance is, why the liens were happening or whatever, and like equating it to workers' comp.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I still find it a discrimination because like even though we're a subclass, it's still a class, and like how rude. But
I did workers' comp for years. And when she said that, it just all clicked. And I went, of course, that's how they can do a lien. Of course it is. Like
so messed
crazy.
So
but if you're this is a positive thing, because she did say if you're working with a lawyer, they can only charge 33%.
Only if it's in that clause or whatever.
Right.
But Blue Cross Blue Shield has taken it out. So Blue Cross Blue Shield gets 100.
Right. But what about a Lloyd's plan? Like that's still, like she said,
even heard
who thought that would be the cheapest plan?
So funny.
So there are options. That's what I really wanted to hear, that there are other options.
Yeah.
So it's very a lot to think about, really a lot to think about. And it's great that they're going to have the meetings. I think I'll pop on because I want to know some stuff. Yeah.
I think it would just be so beneficial for everybody. You can get so much understanding of what's going to happen.
Yeah. And to surrogates, because they really are. I don't want to say they're in the dark, but with a lot of these, you said, right turn, left turn. You just listen and you're not.
Yes. You are told.
First timer.
You are told this is your insurance. Here you go. And it's like, oh, okay. And as my experiences went on, I was like, look, as long as my OB's covered, I don't care what insurance you get me. Like, that's all it was. And now it's like, well, now there's other things into play. So like, let's figure this out. So it sucks, but like, I like knowing that there are options.
Yeah. And to go with Art, they know how to put those puzzle pieces together. So they could
Yes.
come up with
With a
something that might be affordable and
Yes.
cover everyone rather than have
Yes.
this huge lien. So
yes, and she's you know, they're not
for
in it to make $1 million.
right, $300 or $400 for the fee, even if it's 500, that's a kick in the bucket when you're talking about a 10, 11
Thousands
month
and
journey.
thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
For
Yeah.
policies and then for
Yeah.
just so
So
much. Oh my gosh,
amazing.
thank you so
Yes.
much, Sarah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be thinking about this for a while. That's phenomenal. Yeah. Fantastic.
Okay, well, if you guys have any questions or any stories that you guys would like to share with us, please feel free to reach out to me at Stop.Sit.Surrogate. And this has been another episode of Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Kennedy and Ellen.
Kennedy and Ellen. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.